Parents, how did your son/daughter's partner win you over? It was my parents, actually. When my mom first met my dad, he was working in an auto body repair shop. Actually damn good at what he does. Well, to surprise my mom's dad, he borrowed my grandfather's 1968 SS Camaro, which had been nearly totaled in a car wreck a few years back, and completely repaired it. When they first met, my dad shook my grandfather's hand, said, "Mr. Haynes, my name is Kevin. Why don't you come outside?" His Camaro was sitting outside, looking almost brand new. My mom says that was the only time she has ever seen her dad cry. Not a parent, but a sister who is fiercely protective of her brothers. My eldest brother's so is terrified of me. I'm quite aloof, I get it. The defining moment of my coming to love her was when we visited the zoo. On the way in, she saw a little girl getting a butterfly face painted on her. She, age 28, wanted the same thing. My brother said no way, don't be ridiculous, etc. She said nothing more about it, just went about her day. Hour or two later, she went to the bathroom. She took a while. She returned with a butterfly on her face and the biggest smile I have ever seen. Her managing to cause this look of total despair but also love on my brother's face was the moment. Edit, just in case you're wondering, my brother is not a control freak. It was cutesy, flirtatious kind of behavior on both their parts. No need to raise alarm bells. I worked in an ice cream shop with my current sew, and her mom came in one night. Without knowing it was her mom at the time, me being friendly, I struck up a conversation with her while I got her ice cream and food for her. 3 months later, I started dating the girl I worked with, and I immediately recognized her mom when I met her for the first time. The first thing her mom said was, "Well, you already have my approval." My parents are pretty traditional and really like the idea of any potential boyfriends asking my dad's permission to date me. However, after 3 years of undergrad, living away from home, and inevitable casual BFS, they had kind of come to accept that this was not going to happen. I made this joke after a one-night stand, made it clear he wanted to date me. We went on a few dates, and things were progressing well. However, I was surprised one day to hear that my father and brother were coming to visit the city for a day. Turns out this guy had contacted my brother on Facebook and was taking him and my father out to lunch to ask permission to date me. This one-night stand is now my husband. My now husband won over my mom forever when, after meeting for the first time at a college cocktail party, my parents were visiting for Parents' Weekend. He put his jacket over my shoulders when we all went outside. It was a brisk fall day, and I was in a dress. She has always said she liked him from that moment on. 33 years later, she wasn't wrong. Bécampie. Yes, fixing computers helped. Yes, and being a nice guy helped. But I swear my husband won over my entire family and extended family on his pie alone. Quote from every family meal ever before we got married. "Is your boyfriend coming? Is he bringing that pecan pie? Now that we are married. Hey, where's his pecan pie? You know you married a winner there. He makes great pies." Upon meeting my teenage daughter So, she was always embarrassed by me at that time. So she says, "Dad, are you drunk?" It's the middle of the day, and of course I wasn't drunk. I hesitate for a moment, and then just answer, "Yes." Her new So looks at me completely straight-faced and says, "Same sense of humor wins me over." Not a parent, but I'll talk about how my white-as Wonder Bread So found some common ground with my Middle Eastern parents. Eating meals together is a really important part of my culture. My current So was willing to try anything and everything my mom put in front of him. My So came from a household where his mother only ever cooked meat and potato types of meals, and they never ate out at restaurants. So he had a beginner's palate. Still, he tried everything from picked vegetables to rice with weird stuff in it, and even stews that looked like liquid poop. Pheasant John, anyone. My mom is a sucker for anyone who will eat her food, so she started to like him a bit more after having him over for dinner. Edit. RIP my inbox. I will try to reply to as many of you as I can. Thank you for sharing your stories and love of Persian food. Smiley face. I won my boyfriend's, now husband, parents over by throwing a party. It was his birthday, and I had gotten a good number of people to show up for a surprise party. He was on the phone with his parents when he walked in, and everyone yelled surprise. He got all teary-eyed and told his parents, "I have to go. It's a surprise party." I didn't know I had so many friends. For good measure, I sent them photos of the party as well. His mom particularly liked the set of photos that showed my So and friends battling a bomb-shaped grill that caught on fire and exploded. Edit. OMG, my first ever gold. Thank you, kind person. Love. My wife's dad told me I'm the only boyfriend he ever liked. He said my strategy of whenever I would call to talk to her, and he answered the phone, instead of just saying, "Is my wife there?" or "Can I talk to my wife?" I would always say, "Hi, Mr. Her Dad. How are you?" and make brief small talk before asking for her. It wasn't a strategy, it's just how I was raised and her southern politeness, but it worked. My boyfriend won my dad over by taking me to several different doctors' offices when I was having medical issues about a month after we started dating. He also stayed calm enough to speak with my parents on the phone and tell them what was going on while I was freaking myself out too much to talk. My dad has always said he likes him well enough with previous boyfriends, but has told me several times he likes my current boyfriend a lot and thinks he's a good guy. Smiley face. I agree. My son's GF won us over by helping us bring him back to dressing like a human being. Despite being an olive-skinned, thanks to my distant Italian relatives and my wife being Hispanic, middle-class boy from the suburbs, he dressed like a hardcore rapper. He looked ridiculous, as besides everything else, he was almost 6 foot tall, so sagging pants/shorts have to be elephant-sized to work. I'm not sure why he went through that phase, as even during it he was fairly well-mannered. There's a lot of other reasons, not least of them being that she is the daughter of a childhood friend of my wife, and thus from the same ungodly remote town she's from. Current population, 150-ish. I cajoled and demanded, and he didn't change. She batted her eyelashes, and he did. She won him, and us. I'm the so of the daughter in this story. My girlfriend's dad basically hated me until the time we drove together down to Monterey from Austin and had to make conversation for 7 hours and pretend it wasn't awkward. He's an engineer, so I went with that and casually mentioned my desire to get a small CNC lathe for metal fabrication or possibly build a basic XY controller to attach to a traditional lathe. Turns out his final project for graduation at college was to build a CNC lathe. We nerded out and started discussing the pros and cons of stepper motors versus servos. Then the conversation moved to Arduinos, and the rest is history. Now we get along handsomely, and it makes my girlfriend very uncomfortable. My fiancé won over my parents individually, but nothing beats my stepdad. My stepdad loves fun facts, and they're always fairly obscure, and I can never answer them, but that only makes it more fun for him. So the three of us, fiancé, stepdad, and I, are sitting around watching The Simpsons, and my stepdad goes, "Who's that band?" When Spanish Flea comes on, my fiancé immediately answers with Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. My stepdad was dumbfounded, and I'm pretty sure that's when our relationship got his seal of approval. I was supposed to be one of those good Asian daughters that didn't date until I finished college. I got rebellious in sophomore year and decided to keep dating the guy who took me to winter formal. Mom actually liked him. Dad refused to acknowledge him. One day, my dad mentioned he got a new car stereo and he was going to take it to Best Buy to have it installed. Boyfriend said, "No, let me handle it," and spent an entire Saturday afternoon installing the radio and cleaning up the wires in his dash. Dad loved him afterwards, basically treated him like his own son. Parents didn't even bat an eye afterwards when we started living in a couple years later. But by that time, he was an engineer, we were engaged, and I couldn't give a rat's ass. As a brother with a sister who has had a pretty awful selection of boyfriends, there has only been one who has impressed me. He didn't make some huge gesture or do me favors or try to win me over. He cared about her and stuck around. It took a while, but that's the only way that he was ever going to get any trust or admiration. I won my father-in-law over the first day I met him. We met on Thanksgiving. The girlfriend took me into a room separate from all the other family members where he was waiting. He looks me over, shakes my hand, and says, "So my daughter tells me you're a professional wrestler?" I confirm that fact. He leans in and says, "Go with it." Her father then grabs me by the hair and drags me into the living room with a large chunk of her extended family, throws me over the couch and yells, "Don't you ever touch my daughter like that." I try to get back up, but he lays me out with another punch and kicks me out the door. The family was shocked and confused until we come back into the house, and he introduces me as his daughter's new boyfriend, and we have a laugh about it. He loves to tell that story. He even told it at the wedding 8 years later. I am very happy to have him as a father-in-law. My fiancée won my mom over before she even met him as my boyfriend. She knew him before as my brother's friend. He's risking a lot by dating me. My brother and all his friends who looked at me as a little sister. She knew how serious he was about me before I even said anything. That and the fact he completely spoils me and dotes on me completely. Also, the proposal made her very jealous. When my dad first met him as my so, he had an hour-long conversation with him. My dad hates conversations and isn't a big fan of people. I had been casually seeing a guy for a couple weeks when one night we were out to dinner and I was having a particularly homesick night. I live 15 hours from my family, and at this point I hadn't seen them in over 8 months. He joked and said that we should drive home and surprise my mom for Mother's Day that weekend. The next day, we were in the car driving. I've never seen my parents so surprised. Also a little worried. I think their initial thoughts were that something had gone terribly wrong and I was there to deliver the news. My parents have loved him ever since. In college, I was sleeping with my then boyfriend in his bed, with his roommate also sleeping in the same room 4 feet away. and I wet the bed for the first time since I was out of diapers. I woke up early, and after realizing what happened, tried to sneak out of bed. He woke up to find me humiliated, shaking, and then bursting into tears. He assured me everything was okay. He knew it was an accident. He still was very attracted to me, and let me shower first. When I told my mom how he handled it, she was sold. Now I have to convince her my current BF is just as great. My grandmother has never liked any of my boyfriends. She always told me flat out that she didn't really like them, which hurt me immensely, but wasn't really out of character. Pretty much nothing I pursued or achieved was good enough for her. I resigned myself to the fact that she would never like anyone I brought home. She never really warmed up to my mother, even though my mom is an amazing human being. No one was good enough for my dad in her mind. Then one day, she surprised me. After meeting my so for the first time, she told me, well, I didn't expect to like him, but I did. He looks at you when you speak, listens to what you say, and responds in a way that shows genuine interest. That was it. That's all a guy had to do in order to impress my grandmother. I'm slightly horrified that she didn't see those qualities in any of the other men I brought home. That happened 6 years ago, and my so and I are married now, expecting our first child. Not quite the same situation, but I think I won over my girlfriend's mom when we went to New York together, and we went to Times Square. They had this big screen with a camera facing the crowd, and the screen showed what was on the camera. It was some perfume or something being advertised, and the screen said 3, 2, 1, quiche. Once it counted down, I look at my lady and licked at her face from chin to hairline in front of thousands of tourists. I look back and her mom was cracking up. I'm hoping that's a good thing. I won over one of my XSO's dad when he invited me into his gun room. This room was bigger than your average public bathroom, and the walls were completely lined with guns. He was trying to intimidate me. I thought they were fucking awesome. We spent the next 2 hours talking about guns, and he showed me his favorites. The daughter broke up with me a few years ago, but her dad and I still talk. My sister's boyfriend actually won us all over by being genuinely the most hardworking and amazing guy we have ever met. The thing is, he's very overweight, short, balding, sweaty all the time, and not that funny. But damn is he smart, caring, intuitive, helpful, cheerful, dedicated, and did I mention smart? Recently, I got really drunk all by myself in my house alone, crying over an ex. It was bad, really bad. My sister texted me, and due to our relationship, she knew something was up when I didn't text her back. Not that she's overprotective or anything. It's just that we know each other that well. She couldn't drive at the time, so she sent him at midnight across town to my house just to see how I was doing. I was not doing well. He sat me down on the couch and talked me down and gave me some really great advice on looking for the right girl and how to move past this last one. He is sincerely one of the greatest men I've ever met in my life. As a single parent, dating isn't easy and not everyone can handle a woman with a child. My so is going through a divorce currently. I wasn't the cause whatsoever and has 2 kids of his own. My father, who happens to be my biggest supporter and best friend, says that the moment he saw how my significant other was with my 4-year-old, that he knew he was a keeper. I tend to agree. My parents didn't care for my fiancé when we first met. He is very direct and has no filter, so he can come off a little rude until you get to know him. A few months into our relationship, my parents were fine with him, but still didn't love him. I ended up needing surgery, and he never once left my side. He stayed with me in the hospital all night and was a nervous wreck when I was in surgery. My parents have loved him ever since. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.